Unit 7, we look at 7.4, nominal and effective interest rates. And I'm going to explain it like this. Imagine you put $100 in the bank, and the bank offers you 12% per annum. Then after 1 year, you will have $100 plus the 12% of 100, which is 100. You will have $112 in the bank. But if we said 12% per annum, compounded monthly, well, first of all, think about it. Surely you're not going to get 12% every month, right? If it's 12% per annum and they compounded monthly, you're going to get 1% every month. So let's have a look for a few months. Month and the total you have in the bank. So month 0 is when you just put it in. End of month 1, you're going to have $100 plus 1%, which is 1. So you'll have $101. So remember, the compound now is going to kick in month 2. Because in month 2, it's your 101 plus 1% of 101, not of 100. So by now you'll have $102.01. So end of month 3, you have your 102.01 plus 1% of that. So it's 103.03. Now I'm going to skip ahead to end of month 12. It comes to $112.68. So if you compare when it's compounded monthly, they still say it's, let's just write this, 112.68. They still say, they quote 12% per annum, but they say compounded monthly. Then you get $112.68. Whereas if it is a 12% per annum just compounded yearly, you would only have had $112. So if your compounding periods are more than 1 per year, you're actually going to get a little bit more. So the nominal interest rate, remember the word rate because that tells us percentage, it is the quoted. So the bank will quote, I will give you 12% per year compounded monthly. The effective interest rate is what you really got. Which we've now seen, if you compound more than once a year, it's always a little bit more. So here's your formula to get from the one to the other. So if you want your IE, means effective interest rate. You don't need to have the amount, and you always just work it out over 1 year. That is 1 plus your nominal, the quoted, over m to the power of m with a separate minus 1, where m is number of interest periods per year. So if we calculated the effective interest rate on this one above, the m's would be 12 because it is monthly. Right, let's do 2 examples. I'm going to cut it down here. So I've got 2 examples. Here, 7.5%. It would say 7.5% per annum compounded monthly. So if you know it's monthly, you know your M is a 12. So this is your nominal effective rate. So this is your IN. So IE, your effective, is 1 plus, you can write 7.5%, or you can change it to a decimal, over 12 to the power of 12, take away 1. And again, remember what happens. You will, and here, okay, I'm going to say something now. Let me first write. So here I'm going to say, write this to 4. Always write it to 4 decimals. Because to get to percentage, we're going to times by 100. So now if I times by 100, I get 7.76%. So if you want to get it to percentage, then while it's still a decimal like this, write it to 4 decimal places. Then you know you're going to have a good rounding here. And here's the one case where I definitely say, give your final answer to 2 decimal places. Whereas often with percentage we only do 1, but because we're comparing the effective and the nominal, sometimes the difference is very small and it's only in the second decimal place. So you have to do that to 2. Now you can see the bank quoted you 7.5% per annum compounded monthly. Effectively, you got 7.76%. Let's do another one. You invest $250 and you're investing it for 5 years and your interest rate is 9.5% per annum compounded weekly. And here the question is not what is the effective interest rate. Here the question is, what will you have available at the end of your 5 years? So we have to adapt our formula a bit, where we had 1 plus I. Now you have to say I over M to the N times M. Remember, N is the number of years. M is then, your weekly says M is 52 weeks in a year. So the minute it's not compounded yearly, your formula changes to this. So it's 250 1 plus, you can put 9.5% or you could put 0.095 over how many weeks in a year? To the power of number of years times the m. Right, let's look at our answer for some important things here. First thing, always round to 2 decimals and round. Don't just write the second decimal, round correctly. And the other thing is always include your currency. We don't include currency or any units that we work with, meters, whatever, we don't include them in our calculations. But when you get to the answer, you have to show that you know it is dollars.